Hey guys, it's Kat and welcome to a brand new, very creepy makeup transformation that entails water of a shark, specifically a great white, in celebration of Shark Week. We might be at the tail end of Shark Week on Discovery Channel, but it's one of my all-time favorite weeks of the year. I love sharks. I've swam with sharks before. That was famous from the TV show Tanked. I always love shark horror movies like Jaws, so I was inspired to do a shark body painting makeup, so let's get started and see how this turns out. I hope you guys know that I'm not completely naked when I do this makeup transformation. I do have like a strapless top on and a pimple, but as you can see here, I am just getting a white eyeliner pencil to outline the shark's face, head, mouth onto my face. I really want to do the picture of a great white like jumping out of the water with its mouth and jaws open, just like in the classic movie Jaws. This is going to be very tricky because the proportions, the angle of the mouth, and the details of the teeth onto my face. But as you can see, I'm doing the pointed shark snout at the top of my head, its eyes on the sides of my eyes, and its teeth along the bridge of my nose, in rows all the way down to my chin. So my lips are going to be in the center of his mouth. And once you have your outline completely done, we're going to get some white aqua paint and start painting on the white tip of the shark's nose. But then I realized I forgot to cover my eyebrows to flatten them down so I could paint on top of them. So I'm doing that now with some Elmer's glue while I remember. But I'm doing 2 to 3 layers of glue stick and powder and making sure it's dried down completely before moving on to the next layer of glue and powder so that it's completely flat, so that we could paint on our eyebrows without the eyebrow hairs messing up all the paint, looking textured and weird and patchy. Once our eyebrows are flattened down to paint on and completely dry, we're going to continue using that white aqua paint, not on the eyebrows but around it. Not on top of it because it could break down the glue. As you can see, I am painting the teeth of the shark where we did the outline across my nose and cheeks and the bottom part of my jaw. And once you have all those teeth and the bottom jaw painted, you are going to dry it down with a hairdryer. Hairdryers help so much with body paintings. And I'm going to powder down all of that aqua paint I did before getting some white cream paint and painting in around my eyebrows and on top of my eyelids. Places where it would tend to crease, that's why we're using cream paint here and not the aqua paint. To continue the white portion of the shark head and on the bottom of my chin a little bit. You could switch on over to the aqua paint around your chin area, but just not on the brows and the eyelids where it would naturally crease. You really want to make sure these layers are opaque, very pigmented. And once you have the head of the shark painted, we want to get white aqua paint again with a very big brush and start painting down towards our neck and chest area. This is the underbelly of the shark, where the water and sunlight reflects from the bottom of the ocean onto its belly. And you want to make sure this is completely opaque down our neck and on our chest. I'm doing it off to the side because it's going to fit more of the head portion of the shark's body as it's twisting, as it's coming out of the water. Once that full layer of white is on, we're going to powder it down with some translucent powder again. Getting some of that white aqua paint very lightly on the areas under my bottom lash line where we didn't put any paint there, because we are going to paint in the gums, and this is going to give us a base to get some pink aqua paint very lightly to paint in the gums. I'm using a reference picture of great whites for this. That's why I'm using this pink inside the mouth, on my lips, in between the teeth, in the mouth of the shark, and on the gums as well. With reference pictures, especially for animals like this onto your face, the proportions can be very tricky. I'm also getting some light gray aqua paint and painting the sides of the shark's head. Because although its mouth is facing you, on sharks, their eyeballs are on the sides of their head. You can see partial parts on the sides of their head depending on how they're breaching out of the water. This light gray is very, very light, but it gives slight shadow and cast on the sides of his face, and we're going to put that under our chin as well. A little bit down our neck with a beauty sponge. This is just a very cheap beauty sponge from Forever 21 that I don't usually use for regular beauty makeup. So if it messes up with this aqua paint, it's fine, I could throw it away. But once all that gray paint and shadow is in portions where we want it, we are going to powder it down with some translucent powder. Now it's time to get some matte black eyeshadow. I'm getting a fluffy blending brush and blending in shadows around those top snout of the shark and on the sides where his eyes would be. And then I'm getting a pencil brush with the same matte black eyeshadow. This is Corrupt by Makeup Geek, but any matte black eyeshadow that's very pigmented will work. But as you can see, I'm shadowing the top parts above his gums and in between his teeth. I say he, but sharks could be male or female. We're just shadowing in detail in between the teeth and then powdering it down with translucent powder before getting some matte pink eyeshadow from my Morphe N35 Neutrals palette to color in those gums. Now I'm just getting my matte black eyeshadow again with a fluffy blending brush to shadow in the inner parts of his mouth and on his bottom rows of teeth. Again, reference pictures of a great white shark if you're doing this makeup really do help. We're gonna put a lot of shadow here because this is gonna be the whole inside of his mouth where he eats things and all the food goes there and it's very vicious. So once you have enough shadow around the mouth, we are going to shadow in with the pencil brush around his eye. And he has these little nostril snout things on his nose near the upper triangle portion of his snout above the teeth. We are even shadowing on the sides of his head, his other eye, just to do some detail to make it look more realistic. With that fluffy blending brush and the matte black eyeshadow, I'm doing a lot of shadow underneath the jaws, under my jawline down my neck. So that gives shadow of a realistic shark as he's bending, coming out of the water. We're gonna get some white cream paint and do some details of teeth on the sides. Then get some black cream paint and put that on my lips. This is gonna be the darkest part of the shark's throat in his mouth. And we're using that same cream paint to do a fin on that white body. And I'm also getting my brow pencil to do light shading and detail around the teeth to define it more. Getting pink cream paint and doing that on the top part of his jaws where his gums are. Now it's time to get some black aqua paint to paint the sides of the shark so that it blends into the background and makes him stand out more. On the sides of our face, on our ears, everywhere we did not paint the shark. You could definitely use Graftobian aqua paints, Mayron, Ben Nye, but I am using here Wolfe Brothers because it's more waxy and it's harder to wash off, but it gives such a great pigment to blend into the background, and I really want this shark to stand out since it has such light colors in it so that you can see the detail of his teeth that I did. When you're working with aqua paints, you want a creamy consistency that's not really watered down or too thick so that it won't glide on nicely. You need something that's somewhere in between because if it's too watery, it's gonna water onto our shark, which sounds natural like what sharks like to live in, but if you get watery black paint on your shark, it's gonna ruin all the detail. Painting that on our shoulders, as you can see, and a little bit on my chest on the other side of my face and ears, leaving my shoulder gray. With this black aqua paint, I'm also doing some shadow on the underbelly of the shark. And once you have all that black paint on, I'm gonna get some watercolor paper, or you could get cardstock and paint it with some aqua paint of the grays that you did in the body of the shark, and some blacks for some shadow. But I cut it out the shape of a fin so that I could glue it on the back of my shoulder of the body of the shark with some Pros-Aid. You know, we want this to look like a semi-real shark coming out of the water. But once you have that fin on, we are completely done with our great white shark body painting for Shark Week. Again, I know this video is being posted on one of the very last days of Shark Week, but I really wanted to do this makeup. It's just fun to challenge yourself because it's so hard to paint animals onto your face with proportions and everything. But now it's time for me to turn back into my human self from a shark. Thank you guys so much for watching and supporting this channel. I hope you guys enjoyed this video as much as you may have enjoyed Shark Week on Discovery Channel. If you do this makeup or any makeup from my YouTube channel, please post on Instagram and tag me #katsketch. You can also follow me on YouNow. I do live shows there. It's younow.com/therealkatsketch. I'll put the link down there below. I'm going out of town soon, but I usually do a couple of live shows every month where I do live beauty makeups. I'm also on Twitter and Instagram and all those places. All the products I use in this video will be listed down below so that you can shop and look around for any body paintings you might like. A very cool announcement coming up ahead, so stay tuned to these videos. You can subscribe to see more. And I love you guys. I will see you in the next video. Bye!